Hi everyone, I'm Lisa from Down to Earth Gardening and Design, and I'm out here in the garden today because I want to talk about harvesting some flowers and preserving them for some fall and winter crafts. So it's time to harvest flowers. It's the end of summer, and I'm not quite ready to let go, but I am starting to think about what I want to preserve for some beautiful wreaths and maybe potpourri and dried arrangements and such. So I just want to walk you through the simplest method of drying your flowers. So materials that I have today, I just have some clippers, some pruners. You can bring out your shears, your scissors. I have a basket that I'm going to put the pretty flowers in. And I just have a little bucket here for anything I'm going to discard. So great flowers for drying. I'm working with annuals right now. I've got some celosia here, and this is a plume or pampas style, which I love. They come in bright colors. I also have a rusty orange color behind me. The other beautiful style is a coxcomb celosia, which is also gorgeous. And then I have my Dusty Miller here, which is a great candidate. So if you have straw flower, that's another one that I've been harvesting. But you can play around with some different annuals. I think about flowers, flower styles, and also foliage to add in the mix. So there's also a lot of perennials that you can experiment with. There's, of course, Artemisia, which is a beautiful silvery gray perennial plant. There's some Rudbeckia, which I've already started drying, which is really lovely. And of course our lavender, which we did a video on, and we've dried a bunch of that for some beautiful crafts. So the best time of day to get out there and start snipping is late afternoon or early evening. So it's quite the opposite of when you're picking a fresh bouquet. You do want to have them really dry. We're in the middle of a drought, so this is a perfect opportunity for me to start harvesting here. Things are pretty dried out. So versus if you're cutting a fresh bouquet, you want them when they're moist, so early morning or late evening. So just think the opposite when you're drying flowers. But something that's very similar as cutting a fresh bouquet and cutting flowers for drying is you want to make sure that you get some with buds too. So I always talk about picking fresh bouquets with buds because they're going to open inside. So if they're tight buds, that's fantastic. So I'm going to start harvesting, and we're going to do the easiest method for drying flowers, and that is air drying. That has been done since colonial times, and all you really need are some basic materials to do that. I've got some twine and some raffia and a great spot to hang them, so I'm going to walk you through that as well. Okay, so I've started clipping. I love this color, so I really just want to give you a close-up of this. So you want to clip them at least 6 to 8 inches long for the stems. And then, like I said, we want to hang them upside down. But after you've clipped them, you want to strip the leaves. So that's why I have my little bucket here. I always like to make my life easier and contain my mess. So I'm just stripping the leaves by hand as much as I can. So if you like to follow along with me at home, we're going to do some winter crafts. So you can go ahead and dry your own variety of flowers and get creative and dry them along with me, and then we'll all be ready for some winter fun. It's always fun to work with some dried flowers when it's the dead of the winter and we need a little pick-me-up. Okay, so that's pretty good. So you do have to expect when you dry them that they are going to fade in color a little bit, But your best bet in keeping them pretty vibrant is to make sure that you're hanging them in a darker place. So no sunny window sills for these beautiful flowers here. So if you have an attic or a barn, we've got an addition that doesn't get a lot of sun, and we've got some high beams, so we're going to hang them there. And it's okay, you know, if it's dry. So those are the best spots to hang them from. And then I also have this vibrant color here. I'm not too concerned about picking them because it is like deadheading your garden, and so I am going to get some new blooms after I've clipped these. So I always think about cutting them down a little bit so they're easier to hang. And then again, I'm going to go ahead and strip the leaves. Just as many as I can. So this here is all leaves, so I'm going to snip that off, snip that off. I just want the flowers. That's really going to be great for drying. Okay, so I'm also going to do the Dusty Miller that I talked about here. And I like my stems as long as possible. And I'm just going to clean up the end a little bit because I am going to need, you know, a couple inches here to actually wrap some twine or raffia around. So I'm going to be out here clipping for a while, but I want to show you this pretty combination. And we are going to have some upcoming videos. I'm really excited to make a dried flower wreath this fall. But also, don't forget about your holiday decorations, because these look fantastic in roping, mantle pieces, or Christmas wreaths. So also stay tuned for those videos. Okay, so I'm back and I'm air drying my flowers. And so I'm inside here and I just want to show you how I'm hanging them. This is an addition that we have, and I love to do a lot of crafting and cooking out here. In some of my videos, you might recognize the space. But it does face the northwest, so I don't get a lot of sun out here, which is ideal for drying flowers. So we had to get a little creative because we started with a couple of wall racks and we quickly ran out of room. So we have these beautiful beams out here, and so we thought, well, why not start filling them up with our harvest? So we've started doing that. And notice that we don't have any ladders out, which is pretty great. So we're kind of doing this the lazy man or woman's way, which is we've made these little hooks here out of the jute wrapped wire. So they're going to sit on the beam like this, and then we're going to hang our bunches from them. And then this is actually, I know you guys are probably giggling at me, but this is actually to open the skylights, and so we just put a bolt through here and we're using this to hang the bunches. So you know what, it works. And part of being a gardener is adapting and coming up with creative ways to do things to make your lives easier. So for hanging these beautiful flowers, I don't want to make my bunches too thick because of course it makes it heavy, but you also want to think about air circulation. So definitely no more than 10 or 12 stems. but this celosia here is pretty heavy. So I'm just gonna do 2 stems together. And remember, I've stripped all the leaves. And I'm using raffia, but you could use some twine or even some ribbon. And at least a 2-foot piece of raffia. And I'm just gonna make my bunches here. I like it to look kind of pretty too, kind of decorative, because this is gonna be here for a while. Usually it takes at least a month for these flowers to dry. So they're gonna be out here for a while. And then I'm making a loop also at the end to hang them from. And I'm not being real exact because I like them staggered a little bit. I think it makes it more interesting to mix up the lengths that they're hanging from and also all the different colors and the textures we have mixed up out here. So we're just gonna hang them like this. Okay, so we're wrapping up our video on air drying flowers, and I wanted to show you the finished product. I have my rack here also. I wanted to show you what things look like after they've been drying for a couple of weeks, because they do look slightly different and I don't want you to be alarmed. So for example, this is my Rudbeckia, or my Black-Eyed Susan, that I've dried. So again, it's been 2 or 3 weeks, and they will tend to shrivel up and look a little bit different in color and in form. So other things that I have on the rack here, just to give you some other ideas of what you might want to dry from your garden. So amaranth, which I think this is going to look really great in some winter decorations, mixed in with some berries and some other greens. This is my globe amaranth, which looked really lovely in my boxes and attracted so many pollinators. So I'm leaving that for now. I'm going to let the pollinators enjoy that, but I am going to cut more for the winter. And then I've got some Russian sage here, which is a lovely perennial for drying. And then this one I'm experimenting with. This is my leeks, went to flower before I harvested them. So I thought, why not try and cut the stems and see how those dry. So I think they're just really interesting in the form. So that's it for today. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit like. Please stay tuned for our flower crafts and our holiday decorating, where we're going to make use of all these lovely flowers. And of course, subscribe to our channel for some future gardening fun.